everyone, Marco Galbraith back again with T4 Tactics, and I want to share an audio clip with you that was done about 6 or 7 months ago. And it was done obviously before the Manchester, England attack, which was just a few days ago, at the end of May 2017. 116 injured and 23 killed. Targeted children. So this audio clip is a presentation that we did, that T4 Tactics did in North Carolina a while back, and in this particular clip, we're addressing the safety and security of our children, situational awareness. We talk about some veterans and how they can help, and then we talk about, we give some stats, talk about how we're going to better secure our churches that have kids in the nursery and the daycare and preschool, and then obviously our schools. So sit back and just listen to this. It's probably 6 or 7 minutes, but I think it's going to be some information that you're going to hear. But I would appreciate if you would share it with your veterans. And again, when you listen to it, you'll know why. And then share it, of course, with your church staff and any members of your local school security team, principal, or teachers. So sit back and take a listen. Thanks. So what I want to talk about next is I want to run you some stats through here, and I'd like somebody with maybe a calculator or maybe a calculator on your phone take this out. Just keep a running tab of how many victims that we're talking about. So we'll start with Beslan, Russia, which was 2004. We had 330 injured, 330 killed. 186 of those killed were children. That was a school attack. On the very first day of school. It's a day when aunts, uncles, cousins, every kind of relative and friend go and kind of support the child on their first day. So 186 children killed on that day. The next one, Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, 2011. We got 12 killed in an elementary school attack. Oslo, Norway, 2011, 50 killed. So look at the numbers already, and we're only a couple of them into them. Sandy Hook, of course, in 2012, United States soil, we had 20 killed. Afghanistan, 2013, a bomb went off at a school, 10 were killed. Nigeria in 2014, 41 kids were killed in a bombing at a boarding school. Pakistan, 2014, 132 kids were killed in an attack, 132. Munich, Germany, 2016, 10 kids were killed on an attack. And we're not talking about other attacks on schools that aren't major enough or maybe don't make the news. When you have a chance, look up Platte Canyon High School attack in Bailey, Colorado. You can find it on the internet. I talk about it a little bit more detail in some other courses, but I had the opportunity to talk to the SWAT commander of that incident where a young lady was killed and 5 were sexually assaulted at the hands of a gunman that barricaded himself in a classroom. The problem with that, and we're going to get into situational awareness, but the problem with this is there were about 6 major failures of situational awareness that they allowed this guy to get on campus, remain on campus, and wander around the campus before anybody said anything to him. And nobody actually said anything to him. That's how he was able to get into a class. So we have to teach our kids situational awareness. And by doing that at a young age, if you take your kids out to dinner one night, and don't tell them you're doing this, but you take your kids out to dinner one night, and you're sitting in the diner and you make mental notes of what's going on in that area, where the cash register is, where the restrooms are, who's in there, who's sitting where. So then when you leave, you get back in the car and you say to your kids, there was a child in a booster seat sitting at one of the tables. Where was that kid? Where were the exits? Where were the bathrooms located? Do you remember where we sat? Where was the salad bar compared to where we sat? But you're teaching them to put their phone down, pay attention, and look around. You're not teaching them paranoia. You're not teaching them to be afraid, or you're not fear-mongering. But if we make it a game with these kids, then it's going to start to be fun, and your kid is going to be the one that you've taught to see that guy that, you know what, I've got situational awareness, and this guy walking up to my bus stop in the morning doesn't quite look right because it's July, it's 80-something degrees outside, and he's sweating, and he's obviously got something under his jacket. So we're going to go with our instincts and we're going to back away from that guy, or we're going to tell somebody about it. Our first, as we talked about earlier, our first instinct as humans is to deny that anything bad is going to happen. So people that are unprepared or don't think with situational awareness or instincts, or don't have a game plan, a lot of them, the first thing they'll do is when they see something like a possible threat, like at the Platte Canyon High School, they'll look at somebody who's hanging out in the parking lot, camping in the parking lot, and they may say, well, it's probably an uncle waiting for his niece or nephew to come, he's bringing them home, or maybe it's a substitute school bus driver or a substitute teacher. But people try to deny everything that they possibly can about what it really is. So God gave us the hairs on the back of our neck to stand up for a reason. When we see something that's not right, we need to remove ourselves from that situation immediately, because most of the time it's not right. Don't keep making excuses for things. I was talking to the girl in the third row earlier, and she attends a local college, and she recently had mentioned something to a security officer about a van that was parked in the lot. Make a long story short, the guy was stalking a girlfriend. There had been some violent attacks, so the security officer approached him. Police were called, and he was arrested for violating a restraining order. But that's the kind of things that we have to teach our young people to watch that. Another thing I want to address is with all those attacks, the stats that I gave you, and up here on the board, look at this board. There's horrific numbers up on this board. We've got tons and tons of combat trained, combat ready, dialed in, 100% professional veterans that are coming back from the Middle East that we can easily budget some money and put them on school buses. They don't have to be in military uniforms with guns showing. They can be in plain clothes. They can be in a school uniform, but they can be armed. Every morning on my street, here comes the school bus. I can set my watch at 7:13. There it is. There's Miss Baker pulling up to pick up the kids. And then she's going to go down maybe a half mile, and 2 minutes later, she's going to pick up another kid, and so on and so on. And then you know what? The same afternoon at 4:37, here she comes again. She's going to stop that bus and let them off. You know what? That is a planned location where I know that bus is every single day. We have got to take measures to protect our kids. Same with schools. We haven't had a kid, fortunately, we have not had a kid killed in a school fire since 1958. So when you build a school, the majority, let's say a lot of the building cost goes towards fire protection, sprinkler systems, alarms, carpet that doesn't burn, walls that are fire walls, ceiling tiles that don't burn, furniture that doesn't burn. 1958, folks. But look at the school attacks up on this board that we've had. Even in the U.S., I only mentioned one of these up on the board that's in the U.S. We didn't even talk about Columbine, Virginia Tech, and many others school attacks. So let's get those veterans and give them some jobs that are well-deserved when they're returning from taking care of us overseas. And let's get them in the schools, let's get them on the buses before something else happens. A lot of people think active shooter training is horrible. You can't talk about it. I had a guy tell me the other day that it's an emotional response and should not be taught. In the 50s and 60s, when we were in the Cold War, they were teaching kids measures to take in case of a nuclear attack, and people were barking at that. You can't teach kids to hide underneath a desk. You can't teach them to go underground in a shelter. You're gonna terrify them. We got through it, and it was accepted. In 1970s, particularly 1974, when they started the stop, drop, and roll campaign, because manufacturers were cutting corners and making clothing with chemicals that were flammable, we were having kids catch on fire, and they started the stop, drop, and roll program. People barked at that, and they said, you can't teach that. It's way, way too aggressive and scary for kids to have to learn, to have to teach that. Well, now it's finally accepted. I spoke at an elementary school the other day, and I asked them, what do you do if you catch on fire? I think every kid in there raised their hand and politely and nonchalantly and without fear said, stop, drop, and roll. That's what we need to make active shooter preparedness. That's what we need to do for active shooter training, is to make sure that that these kids are prepared and that our schools are secured. So Situational awareness, going with your instincts, extremely, extremely important. We're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we're going to go over some weapon disarming, how we're going to disarm the bad guy. We're going to talk about how handling an active shooter is so much more than just run, hide, fight that you hear people talking about. What we're going to talk about is how we're going to have a prepared response, a calm response, what we're going to do to our bodies to calm ourselves down and win an attack, heaven forbid if we're ever in one. So let's take about a 15-minute break. The folks in the back have been gracious enough to make a huge spread back there. So take a minute and let's take a break, and we'll come back and get into some really, really interesting stuff.